Hello, hello, hello. Top of the morning, evening, afternoon, and good night to one and all. It is Thursday, September 19th at 9:45 in the morning. How is everybody doing? Whew. Man, I'll tell you, today I was taking a shower. And
Good job.
thank you so much, Maddie. Today I was taking a shower, and as always, when I take a shower, I kind of look up the latest news, what people are talking about, what's hot on topics, try to keep up with the times because more often than not, I'm kind of out of the loop. Thank you, Lance. I'm kind of out of the loop. And when I heard this story, I realized how much out of the loop I am. So a few months ago, was it a few months ago? When I guess it was about 2-3 months ago. 2-3 months ago, Puff Daddy, some federal agents raided his house for some stuff, and there was a lot of conspiracy theories about what's going on with Puff Daddy. Everybody here knows Puff Daddy. I mean, if you're my age, you know who Puff Daddy is. Okay, he did so much to progress the future of Bad Boy Records, Biggie Smalls, in the hip hop entertainment industry. And as always, with a lot of these celebrities, there is stuff that goes behind closed doors that the average John Q would not know about. And today I'm going to play you, it's kind of a recap of everything that's going on to keep you up to speed. And then I'm going to kind of give a reaction to a lot of what is being said because I have a lot of opinions. And I could just give you the opinions without showing you the context of the video, but I feel like that's going to do it absolutely zero justice whatsoever because you're going to have no idea what I'm talking about. So, with that being said, let's get this popping. So keep in mind that this is a law channel that's actually commenting on some of the disturbing facts, not opinion-based, factual information based off the indictment from New York to Puff Daddy. So let's go here.
A year ago, Sean Combs stood in Times Square and was handed a key to New York City. Today, he's been indicted and will face justice in the...
Oh, I forgot. I do apologize, Monkey. I was muted there. Thank you so much for that donation. Thank you. Let's get it started.
A year ago, Sean Combs stood in Times Square and was handed a key to New York City. Today, he's been indicted and will face justice in the Southern District of New York.
One of the most famous names in the hip-hop world is now facing 3 charges in federal court. Many people have come forward in recent months to accuse Sean Diddy Combs of abuse, sex trafficking, drug possession, and more, but now the federal government is getting involved and promising to bring down the rap mogul's alleged criminal empire. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
I'll tell you, this is one of those shows, for those of you that don't watch Law Crime Network, this is one of the shows that are really, really good. Because it's usually with lawyers or paralegals that know a lot of information, a lot of laws, a lot of different stipulations. So let's just get it.
This office is determined to investigate and prosecute anyone who engages in sex trafficking, no matter how powerful or wealthy or famous you may be. No one should doubt our commitment on that.
Talk about a day in the legal and crime world. And today, it all centers around Sean Diddy Combs and all of these details and filings in his new criminal case. And we're going to break it down for you right now, give you everything you need to know. So, the Southern District of New York is promising justice for multiple victims who say that rapper, producer, businessman Combs used his power, influence, and wealth to intimidate them into doing his bidding, whether that was...
Let me just be clear here. That part that he just said, doing his bidding, power and influencers, that has been a thing ever since money existed. Kings, queens, jesters, You know, Jezebels. I think anybody since the dawn of ages, if if you have money, that money will influence people. How you abuse that to influence people, well, that's debatable whether or not it is legal.
Obtaining drugs or performing sexually or cleaning up after apparent sex acts. Now, we've of course been reporting on Combs for months here on Sidebar. In November of last year, Cassandra Ventura, Cassie Combs' ex, filed a huge lawsuit against him, claiming that he abused her physically, sexually, emotionally for years before she was finally able to get away. Now, Combs denied everything she had to say in her filing. He settled the lawsuit with her just one day after it was filed, but we know that set off a chain reaction. Multiple other lawsuits against him and even against his son were filed, alleging sexual abuse, sex trafficking, illegal narcotics possession, violence. Then, in March of this year, Homeland Security agents, they show up at Combs' homes in both Miami and Los Angeles, search warrants in hand. They raided both locations, seemingly collecting a huge amount of evidence, which we will get through in a moment. And we learned at the time that this was connected to a sex trafficking investigation out of the Southern District of New York, but we didn't know all the exact details. Well, you fast forward to this week, and Combs was officially arrested Monday night at the Park Hyatt Hotel in New York out in Manhattan. According to his defense team, he had been booked there since September 5th. That was nearly 2 weeks ago. And he was in town in anticipation of the charges being filed, which is important because now that Combs has been arrested and charged, he says this is an example to show he's not a flight risk. He's been cooperative. However, when U.S. Attorney Damian Williams, again from the Southern District of New York, held a press conference and was asked about Combs' cooperation in this case, he seemed skeptical.
Let me just say this. I think that generally with increasing frequency, the word cooperative or cooperating has taken on tremendous elasticity and it no longer really bears any relation to what the word means when we use it in a very specific context. So responding.
Basically saying that he didn't cooperate. That's what he's saying. Without saying it, tell me he didn't cooperate without actually saying it. Got it.
To lawful process and the like does not qualify as cooperation when we use that term here.
By the way, as we sort through all these legal filings around Sean Combs and...
we're just going to skip that. Nobody cares about your little ad. I know nobody cares about mine.
In federal court that lay out the accusations against Combs and his associates. Although, to be clear, Combs is the only one named in this filing for now. He faces 3 charges: racketeering conspiracy.
Everybody knows racketeering, right? That's basically where where it's an enterprise, where me and 15 people, Mafia was charged with this a lot. Gotti was charged with this. Tony Soprano, right? What are you fucking kidding me? All these people are charged with racketeering. Essentially what it means is me and 6 people, 5 people, I think it's more than 5 or more than 4, commit crimes. We do things, and essentially it's an enterprise we make money from. That's racketeering. That is the baseline of what it is.
Sex trafficking by...
See, now, when I hear that word, sex trafficking, I don't know why, I automatically think of minor sex trafficking. Automatically. Just right off the jump.
Force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Now, during a hearing on Tuesday, Combs entered a not guilty plea to every charge. And if he is convicted of all charges, Combs faces a minimum of 15 years in prison with the possibility that the 54-year-old could spend the rest of his life behind.
Now, and OJ was, and OJ could have served a minimum of 25 years to life, or 25 years to, or 15 to 25 years, whatever. And we saw how that turned out, right? We saw how Alec Baldwin turned out. When you have X amount of money as a celebrity, even if you don't have money, you're worth something in someone's eyes. So as much as he may be faced with, we all know how this is going to turn out. I think the only people that I could think of that have been locked up that are celebrities, I get it. You could say Mike Tyson with the ear. Mike Tyson actually was not locked up for the ear. He was locked up with Vanessa. Gibbons. I cannot remember her last name. I don't want to say it wrong. For like those of you that know me, hippoing. That's what happened there. Wesley Snipes, Tax, Weinstein. But you don't hear a lot of celebrities getting locked up because they, especially modern current celebrities, because they have a lot of money. And well, the same argument that you could use that they have racketeering and they pay people off to do certain things because they're a crime enterprise, lawyers are no different. The only difference is that lawyers are actually legal racketeering people. Ooh, that's actually a good point. So that's okay because that's the law.
In bars. That's what we're talking about here. So we're going to break down each of these counts for you, as well as more on why Combs says he should be allowed out on bail while he waits trial. And let's start with the indictment. It's 14 pages, jam-packed with information. I want to hit the highlights. So first, right out of the gate, the government lays out some pretty damning accusations. Quote, for decades, Sean Combs, a.k.a. Puff Daddy, a.k.a. P. Diddy, a.k.a. P. D, Love, they, throughout the course of this indictment, refer to him by his many monikers, the defendant abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct.
This is
to do
racketeering.
so, Combs relied on the employees, resources, and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping.
Okay. No offense. Forced labor. He got someone making Nikes in his basement? Forced labor? Everything else looks... Arson is pretty crazy. I mean, you starting shit on fire? Everything else is forced labor? Tell me that while you're wearing a Hanes shirt that was made in China.
Arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Which brings me now to count one. Racketeering conspiracy. So the main idea here is that there is a criminal agreement, an agreement to engage in racketeering. And racketeering is when there is a criminal enterprise, it's like organized crime, a grouping of people who break the law. They commit crimes. Now, it doesn't need to be Sean Combs Breaks the Law LLC. You don't need an official company, just an organized group of people, organized crime. And
sometimes you'll see this with motorcycle clubs. Anybody seen Sons of Anarchy? Racketeering? You get it. Hell's Angels.
Criminal enterprise is supposed to have a common goal. So whether it was to benefit financially, whether it was to satisfy Sean Combs' sexual desires, whether it was to protect him, there has to be a common goal in mind. We're seeing this actually, I should say, in the Young Thug trial out of Georgia. Big thing for the prosecution is they have listed a number of different crimes. They're trying to say this wasn't done in an individual capacity, but it was done to further that gang. Similar idea here. Okay. Now also, as you're going to see here, in a racketeering case, there are numerous predicate crimes. These are underlying crimes that Combs is not specifically charged with, like arson or kidnapping or forced labor, but they are crimes under the umbrella of the larger criminal enterprise. By the way, I should tell you, the racketeering allegations that we see in this indictment are very consistent with the allegations put forward by Rodney Little Rod Jones, Combs' former producer, who was one of the people that filed a sexual assault lawsuit against him and said there were violations of racketeering law. In fact,
you know, one of the things I want to point out real quick, one of the things that bother me with this is, I get it. You broke the law, you know, you whatever the case may be as to why you're finally bringing this to light is why wait? I never, ever, ever understood that. If something happens, right, there's a reason why there's a thing called statute of limitations. While I'm not going against the victim here or siding with the perpetrator, I think what I'm trying to focus on is there's a reason why there is a thing called statute of limitations. If such a long time or an extensive amount of time has passed, then there should be. Why wait? I cannot. The only thing I could come up with is why wait is either A, I am fired, you piss me off, and the NDA is over. B, I need money. or C, I need fame, or even no matter what, there's an agenda, right? And the agenda is not prosecuting this individual to the fullest extent and making him go to jail. The agenda is, this is on a federal level now. So, right, is it federal or is it state? I didn't catch that. It's state, district attorney, New York. So there's a goal. There's some type of agenda here.
Although no one is specifically named in this indictment, you can kind of see who those alleged victims of Combs are, their allegations, that they were the basis for the charges here, especially Cassandra Ventura. Because
you guys remember this video? The video where and how that surfaced? Oh, God. Yo, I'll let it play. This is crazy.
Who those alleged victims of Combs are, their allegations, that they were the basis for the charges here, especially Cassandra Ventura. Because we all know that when that video back in 2016 was released by CNN a few months ago of Sean Combs.
Isn't that crazy? 2016 it happened. CNN got their hands on it a couple months ago. What kind of servers are you running where you have footage from 2016 and 2023 or 2024? That's impressive. Like that's a backlog. If you ask me for my security cameras from when I've moved here, I think I can only go back 387 days roughly. That's filming every camera at 4K. This is obviously not 4K. This is filmed with a potato or a Motorola Razr that's hooked up through a micro USB and transmitting data. This is absolutely terrible footage, but just warning or preface to anybody, he's about ready to drag her across the floor by her hair.
Purportedly beating Cassandra Ventura in a hotel elevator bank. That was publicized for the whole world to see, and he apologized for on Instagram.
That always trips me up too, man. If you did something, right? The problem you have is trying to do damage control and apologize for something that happened back in 2016. If you were truly apologetic about it, when it happened, you would have done it. You would have thought that there would have been no cameras. But now that there's cameras showing you did something, now you're remorseful. That's not how it works. Right? As much as you think that is damage control, you might as well just not said anything and just let people stew up their feelings, get their emotions, let it all keep around. In about 6 months, it'll go down. You coming out, yeah, I'm sure you satisfied some people's needs, but did you apologize directly to Cassie for that? Forget what the people want. Right? Is it really going to affect your sales? Look at Kanye West. That's another story. That's not okay. Let's just keep going.
That is mentioned specifically in this indictment. Now, reading from the indictment, it says, quote, "The defendant and others, known and unknown, participated in unlawful and other activities related to the conduct of the Combs Enterprises affairs. These individuals included certain Combs business employees, such as members of Combs security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and high-ranking supervisors, as well as other close associates of Combs." Now, one of the most startling examples of Combs' alleged control over those around him came...
Oh, thank you, Combat. Kiss, kiss.
...from the description of apparent sex parties called freak-offs. This is something that Ventura...
Okay, this is gonna blow your mind right now. This is gonna blow your mind. I'm just putting it out there. Earmuffs.
Associates of Combs. Now, one of the most startling examples of Combs' alleged control over those around him came from the description of apparent sex parties called freak-offs. This is something that Ventura and others alleged in their lawsuits. What are they? Well, the indictment says Combs and other members and associates of the Combs enterprise wielded the power and prestige of Combs' role at the Combs business to intimidate, threaten, and lure female victims into Combs' orbit, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship. Combs then used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sex acts with male commercial sex workers that Combs referred to as, among other things, freak-offs.
So, okay. When they say orbit, I'm assuming that they mean of women around him, right? I think of orbit like in the moon around the Earth. It orbits. So, okay. I take women I know. I know Jenna, right? I know Monkey. I know Chelseanator. Mandolin. I say, hey guys, listen. I want you guys to come to my house and we're gonna all make love. Just all of us. This is a big orgy. And then I then hire say some. See, when I say commercial workers, I think of a guy that is laying tar on the side of the road, not laying pipe. I'm not trying to be okay. I'm trying to add some moments of levity here because okay.
Freak-offs were
It's probably all timed wrong, but this is just who I am. I need to take this video down.
elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed. I'm not going to say the next part, basically.
Masturbated. Just say it. It's okay. It's masturbated.
Pleasured himself during and often electronically recorded. In arranging these freak-offs, Combs, with the assistance of members and associates of the Combs enterprise, transported and caused to be transported commercial sex workers across state lines and internationally.
That's wild. Here comes your sex trafficking charge.
Freak-offs occurred regularly, sometimes lasted multiple days, and often involved multiple commercial sex workers.
See, now, before we hear the defense on this, because this is one of those things, like, I didn't care about Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. Like, I didn't care about that. That's just the domestic dispute. This, I actually care about. I'm going to cover this when this happens, because this is going to be fascinating. How do you know, just based off of what you read right there, of the indictment? I don't know about you, but it sounds a lot like to me. Again, in America, you are innocent until proven guilty. You can write up whatever you want to write up. If you read Alec Baldwin's indictment, you'd be like, man, he shot him. And then at the end, everybody's like, it was the armorer's fault. That's because they persuaded you that way. Bottom line is he was behind the trigger. We're not there. We're somewhere else. So when I read that, the way that he just read it, or the way that I see it on the paper, is that it sounds a lot like to me that old boy was trying to make adult films. That's what I get out of that. Now, when you make adult films, I think that you're trying to get into the adult industry. And when I'm saying adult industry, I am not referencing riding motorcycles at 18 and racing. I'm not referencing going to the bar and throwing a couple shots down while smoking a cigar outside. No, I am referencing adult industry. Use your imagination.
So this is also kind of a flavor of the sex trafficking charge, which we'll get to a little bit later.
See, what's the difference between what that he did and what Playboy does? I don't know if Playboy does it. That's probably, that is not defamation. I am not sure. I just know that when I was in the adult industry, I saw a lot of people coming from overseas to be in films. So is that not the same thing of what you just explained? Minus the romantic relationship thing. Minus that. Okay.
During freak-offs, Combs distributed a variety of controlled substances to victims, in part to keep the victims obedient and compliant. Sometimes, unbeknownst to the victims, Combs kept videos he filmed of victims engaging in sex acts with commercial sex workers. After freak-offs, Combs and the victims typically received IV fluids to recover from the physical exertion and drug use.
Okay, see that right there? Whoa. I got nothing. I have never been or seen somebody get so dehydrated. I've seen people drink Gatorade, but I've never seen anybody tap a line. So that is absolutely bonkers. That's crazy. Like, that's wild, bro. IV? You got somebody that's qualified CLS? Got a medic on staff? A corpsman? Something? I don't know why I'm going with military. You got somebody that can... Wow.
The indictment then provides more details about what Combs expected his employees to do before, during, and after these sessions.
Now, Combs did not do this all on his own. As I mentioned, Combs has been charged with RICO conspiracy. He used his business and employees of that business and other close associates to get his way. Those individuals allegedly included high-ranking supervisors in the business, personal assistants, security staff, and household staff. The indictment alleges that those individuals facilitated the freak-offs. They booked the hotel rooms and stocked them with the supplies, including drugs, baby oil, personal lubricant, extra linens, and lighting. When the hotel rooms got damaged, they helped clean it up. They arranged for victims and commercial sex workers to travel for the freak-offs, and they delivered large quantities of cash to Combs to pay for the commercial sex workers.
According to the indictment, in or about March of 2024, during searches of Combs' residences in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California law enforcement seized various freak-off supplies, including narcotics and more than 1,000.
That narcotic part? I mean, baby oil. 1,000 bottles of baby oil. Man, you know there's better lubrication than baby oil, right? Unless you're just trying to make dudes shiny. I mean, what better way than baby oil? You can do it with eggs, too, but you're going to be crispy at the end of that. You might get salmonella. Don't use eggs. Use baby oil. But narcotics? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. How you get those narcotics, bro? What kind of narcotics? Opioids or cocaine? Which one? It's a pretty vague statement.
1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant.
Keynote, don't use that in your vagina. Don't put baby oil in your orifices. Okay? It goes on your skin to make you smell like little babies. It's not designed for anything else. Don't be sick, people. Baby oil. It's in the name, right? It's oil for babies. That's it. Move on.
Wow, you talk about physical evidence here to prove these claims. Now, federal prosecutors allege that Combs used the threat of violence as well as actual assaults to keep his alleged victims in line. The indictment reads, quote, Combs maintained control over his victims through, among other things, physical violence, promises of career opportunities, granting and threatening to withhold financial support, and by other coercive means, including tracking their whereabouts, dictating the victim's appearance, monitoring their medical records, controlling their housing, and supplying them with controlled substances. During and separate from freak-offs, Combs, among other things, hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims at times by their hair. These assaults often resulted in injuries that took days or weeks to heal. Combs also threatened victims' careers and livelihoods, including if they resisted participating in freak-off.
Granting and threatening without financial support, okay, that whatever. And by other coercive means, including tracking their whereabouts. So like Find My, dictating the victim's appearance. I don't know about you, but the more that I read this, the more that I think of adult industry. Monitor medical records, dictating the victim's appearance, tracking their whereabouts. I got nothing about that. Financial support, and the controlled substances. However, we all know rock stars, right? They be doing cocaine to keep awake. Do you guys want less narration and me more just playing this? Because if you do, I could just shut up until the end. Just let me know in the comments.
So a majority of that indictment covers that first count, racketeering conspiracy. Now I want to talk quickly about the other two counts that he faces. So count 2 is a charge of sex trafficking of a victim by using force or coercion or fraud to have that person engage in commercial sex acts that are either for money or something of value is promised or given. And there were allegations that Combs had made promises of opportunities and so forth to get what he wanted. And he's also charged with count 3, which is related to the transportation of people for purposes of prostitution. Now, quick side note about this. This is a comprehensive indictment, but it doesn't have a lot of details about what evidence prosecutors have to prove all of this. It also doesn't include every allegation that has been asserted against Combs in numerous civil complaints. For instance, there is nothing regarding minors. You know, there's been a lot of allegations that there were minors at
That's good. That's a good thing.
These Combs parties, which we had heard before in these other allegations and these other complaints. Nothing about minors here. Now, Damian Williams, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, said that it's possible more charges could be on the way. He wouldn't confirm it one way or another, said nothing's off the table, so we don't know. But maybe there wasn't enough evidence to prove that there were minors at these parties or Combs did anything criminal related to minors. But
I want to point this out too. There's a little clip out there. I'm sure you guys saw it a couple months back where Justin Biebs. I'll try to find it after this, where Justin Biebs and P. Diddy, they were trying to say that he was involved in it, and because he was like, come hang out at my house. And of course, people take that just because of the way social media is and automatically throw that in left field like that had something to do with some type of sexual act or something. But it has been confirmed by the Biebs, I think, and his parents and Puff Daddy. So whether it was paid off or whatever is irrelevant, you could throw that one away. So, I'm sure I'll find the clip when it's done. It's good that there's not minors in it. I think that's great.
But I tell you what, we did get a lot more information from another filing from the prosecution. I'll get to that in a second. First, I have to get to the defense, because in a letter filed with the court on Tuesday, Combs' defense team laid out a proposed bail package for their client, why he should be released pending trial. And they explained why his actions over the last 6 months point toward cooperation, not avoidance. They also call out the government for seemingly making things more difficult than they had to be. His team writes, quote, through counsel, Mr. Combs promptly told the government that he had voluntarily come to New York, offered to tell them specifically where he was, and offered to turn himself in at the appropriate time. Even though Mr. Combs came to New York, authorized his lawyers to tell the government of his location, and offered to self-surrender, the government effected an arrest last evening. This, we know, is the government's right. However, that he traveled to New York to self-surrender is also something the court should consider. So what is this?
Okay. I think that Puff Daddy went to New York to make again, back to damage control, make it look like he was forfeiting. You knew, I'm sure by your lawyers, and, because all lawyers talk, I'm sure that you knew that they were coming. So might as well make it as least as resistant as possible. So show up to New York and make it look like you're there for them. That's what you did, Puff Daddy. Let's keep it real. You didn't surrender, because if you did, there would have been no arrest. You would have went to the courthouse with all your lawyers, not the courthouse, to the police department. Hey, man, you seen Trump do it. Don't come arrest me. No. I'll make this one look better on you. I'm already here. I'm ready to go. Okay.
It's a bail package that the defense outlines. Well, here are some of the main points. One, a $50 million bond co-signed by Combs, his mother, his sister, the mother of his eldest daughter, and his 3 adult sons. That $50 million would be secured by the equity in Combs' Miami home. The appraised value of that home on Star Island is $48 million. So in other words, this is what he's saying. You can secure this. You can know that I'm not going to flee the country. I'm not going to break the bail conditions. I'm putting this home up. The defense says that Combs paid off the remaining mortgage, $18 million, so he could use it to secure a bond. The equity in his mother's home in Miami could also be used as collateral. And the letter goes on to say that
I was going to say, a $50 million bond, even at 10%, bro, is still $5 million. How much is your house worth?
Combs' travel would be restricted to the Southern District of Florida and the Southern District of New York. Combs apparently surrendered his passport to his attorneys right after the raids on his home, and several of his family members, including his children, have surrendered their passports too. Combs' counsel says he is currently working on selling his private plane, so he wouldn't be able to just jet off to some exotic locale that has no extradition with the United States. In the bail package information, it's also revealed that Combs wants to be under house arrest and would agree to GPS monitoring.
You don't think all of this? I'm not saying he's going to fly away, clearly. They're going to catch you, bro. You're such a high-profile figure. Just give the man bail. It's whatever. All the stipulations they're putting out there. What's the big deal?
The letter from Combs' attorneys also fires back at the assistant U.S. attorneys working on the case, saying they reached out to him in the days before the raids, but never got any reply. And then on March 25th, agents swooped in with a big show of force, which the attorneys insist was unnecessary. The filing also goes into Combs' philanthropic works, including his work with the Boys and Girls Club of America, his donations to open a charter school in New York, and his work fundraising to get PPE for frontline workers during the COVID-19 pandemic. At the end of the document, the defense team states Sean Combs has never evaded, avoided, eluded, or run from a challenge in his life. He will not start now. As he has handled every hardship, he will meet this case head on. He will work hard to defend himself, and he will prevail. Now, the prosecution had a different view. So the prosecution team also sent a letter to the judge defending their assertion that Combs should be locked up with no bail. Their letter states, quote, "As reflected by the gravity of the charges in the indictment, the defendant is dangerous and poses an ongoing threat to the safety of the community. If released, he remains a serious risk of flight despite the conditions offered by his counsel. Most glaringly, the defendant also poses a significant risk of obstructing justice." The letter also goes into more detail about some of those specific situations that Combs was allegedly involved in that point to the lengths he would reportedly go to get what he wanted. For example, quote, "The defendant ensured the victims would participate in freak-offs through coercion and violence. For instance, the defendant provided controlled substances, including ketamine, ecstasy, GHB."
Oh, sugar.
"To female victims so that they could and would continue to engage in freak-offs despite fatigue, physical and emotional exhaustion, and pain. Additionally, both during freak-offs and separate from freak-offs, the defendant subjected female victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse in part to cause them to engage in freak-offs. The defendant hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged female victims, sometimes by their hair. At least a dozen witnesses will confirm that they personally observed the defendant's violence towards women and or the injuries sustained by women at the defendant's hand." Now, back to that 2016 video that I mentioned of Combs allegedly attacking Cassandra Ventura out in LA. They say in this letter, prosecution, they claim that Combs used money and influence to try to keep that video from getting out.
Okay, see, that right there makes sense. Yep, that makes sense because that took forever to surface. So,
quote, "When a member of hotel security staff intervened, the defendant attempted to offer their hotel security officer a stack of cash to ensure his silence. After the security guard refused the defendant's bribe and after coordination between the defendant..."
Did he refuse the bribe? Or he was like, "No, I can't take that because this is my job." Right? Yeah, they're both refusals. Yes, they are both refusals, but I think there's a big difference. I don't want to take that because you're a good guy. I don't want to take that because, it's all right. We all, smack our ladies around. Yeah, okay.
And his employees, the defendant's staff contacted other members of hotel security. Within days of the incident, the surveillance video disappeared from the hotel's server. Now, this is the exact...
Okay, so if it came off the server, where did it go in the meantime? Did that security guard put it on a USB stick and just put it in his drawer for a rainy day? Okay.
Allegations.
I'm sure that's going to be brought up in the court case.
Put forward by Cassandra Ventura, which makes you wonder, is she one of the cooperating witnesses with the government? You have to believe so. And clearly, there is something to be said that the prosecutors here are believing the account of Ventura and possibly these other alleged victims. It's not just them filing a lawsuit against Sean Combs. They are believing these allegations to substantiate criminal charges. That's big. Now, the letter also references another alleged incident that was first revealed in Ventura's lawsuit last fall when she alleged that Combs set fire to fellow recording artist Kid Cudi's car when he seemed to show interest in Ventura. According to the filing, quote, "In the early morning hours of December 22nd, 2011, the defendant and a co-conspirator kidnapped an individual at gunpoint to facilitate breaking into and entering the residence of individual 1. Multiple witnesses would testify at trial to the events surrounding the kidnapping and break-in, the latter of which is corroborated by police reports and other records.
Oh my.
Approximately 2 weeks later, the defendant's co-conspirator set fire to individual 1's vehicle by slicing open the car's convertible top and dropping a Molotov cocktail inside the interior. Police and fire department reports extensively...
One reason why not to get a soft top. If you're going to get a convertible, make it a hard top.
...document the arson and conclude that the fire was intentionally set. Multiple witnesses would also testify to the defendant bragging about his role in destroying individual 1's car. So again, prosecutors really taking Cassandra Ventura's allegations as true And again, while he's not specifically charged with arson, that is a part of the racketeering charge. Goes on, the prosecution, they raised concerns about Combs' access to weapons as well, especially firearms. The letter includes photographs of weapons found in Combs' homes. Again, this is all a reason why they believe he should be denied bail. In March of 2024, during searches of the defendant's residences in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California, law enforcement seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 AR-15s, each with defaced serial numbers, as well as a large capacity drum magazine. As pictured in a close-up image, the serial number of one of the AR-15s is visibly bored through and obscured. By the way, that in and of itself is a federal crime. We did an episode about the recent potential shooting of former President Donald Trump. That individual is charged with that crime. The filing goes on to state, quote, 2 of the 3 defaced AR-15s were found in the defendant's Miami bedroom closet, stored broken down in parts, along with magazines that were loaded with ammunition. In addition, 6 legally purchased guns with serial numbers, some of which were stored in gun safes, were recovered from the defendant's residences. Now, from there, in this bail letter, Combs is also accused of trying.
See, I'm not aware of this, but anybody that is familiar with gun, rifle, pistol laws, if you have parts of weaponry and it is disassembled and you cannot make a full weapon out of it, let's just say the pistol grip part has got or the slide has got the serial number etched off. You can use all the other parts to that, right? Because all those parts don't have serials on it. There's only one serial on the weapon itself. Right, that might be the argument here. I'm not sure about the laws with serials. I know you cannot have them assembled and on you or whatever. But if you take parts of something that has no serial, is there a crime in that? It's a question.
Parts, along with magazines that were loaded with ammunition. In addition, 6 legally purchased guns with serial numbers, some of which were stored in gun safes, were recovered from the defendant's residences. Now, from there, in this bail letter, Combs is also accused of trying to influence witnesses. Prosecutors state, quote, specifically following the November 2023 lawsuit, the defendant and intermediaries acting on his behalf reached out to potential victims and witnesses to the alleged conduct, including individuals he did not speak to regularly and had not spoken to in years, to attempt to feed those victims and witnesses false narratives about the defendant's criminal conduct. For example, on or about November 19, 2023, just 3 days after the filing of the lawsuit described above, this is the Cassandra Ventura one, the defendant made multiple calls to another victim of his sexual abuse and recorded certain of those calls using the cell phone of a co-conspirator. During the calls, the defendant repeatedly asked for the victim's support and friendship and attempted to convince the victim that she had willingly engaged in acts constituting sexual abuse. The defendant also assured the victim that if she needed the defendant to, she ain't got to worry about nothing else. Quote, even more concerning, since learning about the criminal investigation, including following the execution of the search warrants at his residences, Combs contacted other witnesses on multiple occasions, including other witnesses who had received grand jury subpoenas, basically accusing him of obstruction. And by the way, the prosecution also points out that many of the crimes that Combs is accused of happened in his home. So putting him on house arrest, they would say, doesn't do much to mitigate potential wrongdoing inside his residence. Now they talk about the weight of the evidence, how much they have. Remember I said there wasn't a lot in the indictment? Well, here they talk about...
You really think that he would commit these crimes again, knowing that he's being charged with it, especially while on house arrest? That's a bit of a far-fetch, no? It's a little ridiculous.
The weight of the evidence as a factor to consider in whether to deny bail. Quote, as to witnesses, to date, the government has conducted interviews with over 50 victims and witnesses, many of whom saw or experienced the defendant's abuse. Many of these witnesses corroborate one another, and their accounts are consistent with the other types of evidence discussed below. The government only expects that number to continue to grow, given that the investigation, which is now public, is ongoing. And also, the prosecution revealed in its filing that the government has seized more than 90 cell phones, laptops, cloud storage accounts, hard drives, thumb drives, cameras, a surveillance system that they say shows this criminal activity. So based on that, we can assume that the evidence the Southern District of New York has against Combs is likely vast. Quote, the evidence also consists of physical evidence, which was seized pursuant to search warrants executed at the defendant's residences in Los Angeles and Miami, as well as on his person and the persons of certain co-conspirators. In addition to the firearms and electronics discussed above, the physical evidence also includes other evidence of freak-offs, including over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and personal lubricant. Pretty disgusting. Now, the prosecution ends their letter to the judge by saying, quote, "There are no conditions of bail that would assure the appearance and compliance of the defendant or the safety of others. Accordingly, any application for bail should be denied."
A year ago, Sean Combs stood in Times Square and was handed a key to New York City. Today, he's been indicted and will face justice in the Southern District of New York. Second, we are not done. This investigation is ongoing, and I encourage anyone with information about this case to come forward and to do it quickly. Anyone with information can call 1-877-4HSI-TIP. I want to express my deep appreciation for the victims and witnesses who have used their voices and helped bring this criminal conduct to light. We would not be here without them.
So what happened? Well, there was a hearing in front of the Honorable Robin F. Tarnofsky, a magistrate judge from the Southern District of New York, and arguments for and against bail were put forward by the prosecution and the defense. And remember, there is actually a presumption of detainment in this case. And the judge reportedly said that after listening to all the evidence, that the presumption has not been rebutted, meaning that Sean Combs is denied bail. He must remain behind bars. She reportedly said there was a significant amount of violence and weapons. There was the allegation of coercion of witnesses. And even though she seemed to thank his family for coming, she cannot release him at this time. Now, we will, of course, keep you updated on any and all developments in this case of Sean Diddy Combs as it inches now even closer to a criminal trial. All right.
Wow. So what this means is any of the future updates, once again, that is on the Law and Crime Network. Absolutely fantastic show. Jesse is really good. I really like him as an individual. I think he speaks well. And any future updates of court cases or any proceedings from here on out, I will cover it on Zed channel. And thank you all for watching, and stay tuned till the next one. Stay beautiful. Make sure you follow this channel or subscribe to this channel so you know next time I upload this, you get a notification. Stay blessed.